Is Disney World going to be worth it in 2026, or has it gotten way too expensive? I've been going for years to Disney World, and I'm here to break down the real value that you can expect in 2026, or if you should just skip it and go to Universal. Let's get into today's video. And I'm Carson, and I'm with DizWiz Dollars. So this channel is all about helping you decide whether Disney, Universal, or theme parks in general are gonna be worth your time and money. So let's go ahead and get into today's video. If Disney World is gonna be worth it in 2026, where I break down real costs and help you decide to have your money meet the magic. First up, let's talk about the big elephant in the room, and I'm not talking about Dumbo. I'm talking about tickets. So tickets last year in 2025 reached an all-time high price hike of over $200 at some points per day at Walt Disney World. So to me, that's insane. So I actually have an annual pass as an out-of-state annual pass holder, but most people should not get an annual pass. Check out my other video. I'll link it down in the description. But for the majority of people, a regular park ticket is going to be worth it. So Disney, like a lot of different theme parks, will sell you on the multi-day experience. So the more days you go at Disney, the cheaper per day it is. However, the upfront cost for the ticket is going to be a little bit more expensive. Think about Disney as well over the holidays with Halloween, Christmas, and some of the other after-hour events. Those are going to be an extra cost for the special ticketed events, so keep that in mind. So when I went to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party last year, even though I have an annual pass and I can get in during the day, I had to pay extra, which was around $160 when it was all said and done. So stay tuned, and I'll be going over if those after-hour events are going to be worth your money on the channel. But for most people, you're going to have two different types of tickets. You're going to have one park per day at Disney, or you're going to have what Disney considers a park hopper ticket. And here's why you should or shouldn't get that ticket. So a park hopper ticket is exactly that. It allows you to move freely in between different theme parks. So let's say if I started the day at Disney's Hollywood Studios, I could hop over to Epcot and take the Skyliner throughout the day. So who is this good for? This is good for people who actually want to experience multiple parks throughout the day. However, I will put one caveat out there with a park hopper. You will be doing more walking with a park hopper, so just keep that in mind, especially if you go to Animal Kingdom and then end up at Magic Kingdom. Magic Kingdom is kind of a hike from Disney's Animal Kingdom park, but that being said, I typically will recommend park hoppers to people just because it opens up your day to what you can do. If you are on a tight budget, however, one park per day is completely fine. I enjoy going to just Magic Kingdom. If you were just having to do one day at Disney, I would do Magic Kingdom. However, most people are going to go for multiple days, so you can split it up one park per day. So you can do Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Animal Kingdom, and then Hollywood Studios, or however order of theme parks that you want on your vacation. So just keep that in mind if you are doing the park hopper. So it kind of opens up your day as to what you can actually do. Or if you're somebody who's on a tight budget, or you just don't care about starting out at Epcot and then ending at Magic Kingdom, then skip the park hopper. And one day ticket or multiple day ticket will suit you just fine. And it typically saves about $100 to $200 on your overall ticket cost. So just keep that in mind. The park hopper does add to your cost per day. So that's a sneaky way that Disney might get you. So keep that in mind. So I can't talk about tickets without talking about the Genie in the Room. There used to be an app on the My Disney experience that was a skip the line pass called Disney Genie Plus. It has now been replaced by Disney's Lightning Lanes. So what Disney's Lightning Lanes are is, in addition to your regular park tickets, whether it's a multi-day ticket, a one-day ticket, or a park hopper ticket, Lightning Lane allows you to skip the lines at Disney's most popular attractions, so you'll have minimal wait times. It doesn't, so let me say this for all the people in the back, it does not completely erase your wait time at Walt Disney World. It just lowers the wait time, so you're not having to wait in a long queue. So that being said, Lightning Lane comes in 3 different tiers. There is the Lightning Lane Premier Pass, which is the highest pass, so you do not have to book a return time with Lightning Lane Premier Pass. and it can range anywhere from $199. I've seen it close to $500 throughout 2025. So that was something new that Disney introduced. The middle tier is what most people are going to buy, which is Lightning Lane Multi-Pass, which allows you to book in advance a return time. There are different tiers to this, so look out for future videos as to how to maximize Lightning Lane Multi-Pass and if it's worth your money. So Lightning Lane Multi-Pass is usually what I use, the DizWiz himself. If you are staying at a Disney resort hotel, you can book up to 7 days in advance per day, and it allows you to, from a different tiered system, you can choose, say if I was at Magic Kingdom, I could choose Tiana's, and then Space Mountain, which actually I wouldn't be able to do that because Space Mountain's in the same tier. But for that example, let's say I chose Tiana's 7 days in advance because I stayed at a Disney hotel. Then I could choose Winnie the Pooh and Small World, right? So those would be my 3 Lightning Lanes to start out the day. And then I'd be able to scan into that once my time slot becomes available. And after that, as soon as I scan in, and some will have 2 different touch points on attraction, then you can book another Lightning Lane. So that's typically what most people will do, is a Lightning Lane Multi-Pass. There is the Lightning Lane Single Pass, which are typically only for the most popular attractions. Think Guardian of the Galaxy, Cosmic Rewind in Epcot, Flight of Passage, or Rise of the Resistance over at Hollywood Studios. So that's kind of a broad overview of what you can expect when you go to Disney for your tickets in the Lightning Lanes. So do I typically recommend Lightning Lanes? I do, because I use them. Being an out-of-state annual pass holder, even though I have the annual pass, I still buy it for select days on my vacation. I do not, however, recommend buying it for every single day. In fact, there's a case study to be made if Disney's Lightning Lane Multi-Pass is going to be worth it at Disney's Animal Kingdom in 2026. I'm going to be doing a case study where I'm on site testing out that theory, just because Animal Kingdom is going to see the closure of Dinoland USA. So they will really only have about 5 attractions in that theme park. So it may not be worth it, but I'll be giving you some tips and tricks on how to utilize it if you do choose to buy it for Disney's Animal Kingdom. So that is going to be what to expect for tickets in 2026 at Disney World. So let's go ahead and move into one of my favorite topics, hotels. All right, so the good news about Disney World hotels is there's only 2 options. You can either stay off-site or on-site. So Disney will not let you sleep in the Disney Springs parking lot. So don't ask how I know that. But that being said, I typically recommend 2 people to stay on site at Disney. And the reason I say that is because I believe it's great value for your money, and it enhances your experience at Walt Disney World and you're on vacation. So my thing about Disney World hotels is, if I'm already going to be paying that to go to Disney World, I might as well pay a little bit extra to not have to worry about transportation, because that is the big thing about staying on site at Walt Disney World, is all your transportation. As of the recording of this video on January 2nd, 2025 at around 4 p.m. is all of your transportation is included at no cost to you. So that means if you're taking the monorail, the buses, or the Skyliners, or one of my personal favorites is the boats, all that's included at Walt Disney World property. The thing about Disney World is it is this about roughly the same size as San Francisco in the United States on the West Coast. So it is a huge property when you're actually staying on site there. All right, so let's talk about who staying on property is for. Let me fix my microphone a little bit. So staying on site at Walt Disney World Resort is somebody who wants to experience what is known as the Disney bubble. I'm a firm believer in it. A lot of people have said that the Disney bubble has disappeared post-COVID. I think it's still around, especially when you stay on site, because you don't have to worry about transportation. You're completely immersed into the Walt Disney World experience, and it just enhances your magical time when you're at Walt Disney World. That being said, there are a lot of people who I know who prefer to stay off-site. The thing about staying off-site, yes, you tend to get cheaper accommodations nightly, but one thing you have to watch out for at these resorts, what is known as the deadly resort fees. Now, sometimes you can get these fees waived, but typically those are only for like credit card members if you're staying at like a Hilton close to Disney World, or Marriott, or any of the other hotel chains. The reason I don't like staying off-site is, one, you're going to have to pay for surge pricing if you take Uber and Lyft to the theme parks. Not saying it's a bad thing. Just keep that in mind. If you are going during a busier time of year, you're going to be subjected to a higher surge price to pay to and from your hotel. Sometimes they have buses that run from the hotel to the Walt Disney World theme parks, but what I've found is their schedules are not typically as good as Disney's on-site transportation. And three, the resort fees are kind of crappy because I've seen them range anywhere from like $25 all the way up to like $150 a night. So yes, you may be paying cheaper nightly price, but once you factor in the resort fees, it's not as cheap as you would think, especially with the added transportation. So that being said, who is staying on site for and off site for? So if you're somebody who really just prioritizes the magic and the experience and don't mind paying a little bit more for your Disney hotel, then I would recommend staying on site at Walt Disney World. I always have a great time when I stay on site. I have stayed off site before at, say, like the Residence Inn by Marriott, Lake Buena Vista. It was an okay experience. The only problem was the increased added cost for the rental car because I chose to do that instead of Uber and lifting back and forth. So look for future content on the channel as I stay on site, and I might do a couple of nights off site too, just for you all. So just make sure you hit like and subscribe, because if I'm staying off site, you know I'm doing it for you all to see if it's worth your money. So the third thing about you have to watch out for in Walt Disney World, if it's worth your money, is going to be food. So let's get into it. All right, so let's move into the food. So the food at Walt Disney World can range from typically quick service to sit-down dining, and there are snack carts throughout Walt Disney World as well. So the thing about the food quality, of what I will say, of what it used to be, I do feel like the food quality pre-COVID was better at Walt Disney World. Please don't at me in the comments, or if you want to go ahead and at me in the comments, then go ahead. But the price for what you are paying for the food and the quality is not as good as you used to get. That being said, there are some really great dining options. One of my favorite restaurants at Walt Disney World is Sebastian's Bistro. I ate there for the first time in my October trip. It was only $39 for all you can eat, and it was on par with Ohana. That is another very popular Disney restaurant, is Ohana over at the Disney's Polynesian Resort, which I really enjoy. So they give you a lot of Hawaiian cuisine, and it's all you can eat. However, it's about double the cost of what Sebastian's Bistro was. Those are some of the sit-down restaurants that I enjoy, is Ohana and then Sebastian's Bistro. But what about the majority of what most people will get is quick service dining locations? And Disney's quick service, I feel like, is where they shine. So there are some diamonds in the rough. One of my personal favorites is going to be Satu'li Canteen over in the Pandora World of Avatar area in Disney's Animal Kingdom. You can get bowls that include beef, noodles, and it's just a really healthier options for people who are walking around all day, who don't want a cheeseburger, a hot dog, or chicken fingers. Not saying those are bad. I enjoy the Disney ones. However, I do like a little bit extra if I'm paying more because I'm on site at Walt Disney World. Another recommendation I have is Docking Bay 7 over at Disney's Hollywood Studios in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. And it includes a galaxy of different dining options, and it's a quick service location, so you do not have to reserve dining in advance. You can just walk in, order. Another tip I would highly recommend to people visiting Walt Disney World is mobile ordering. Mobile ordering, you can do it right from your phone, and you don't have to wait in any line. It'll tell you when your food's ready. You just show up to the counter, they give you your food, charge your card, and you're good to go to eat. So the third tier of Disney dining that can enhance your day are the Disney snacks. So Disney World is no stranger to snacks throughout on property. So some of my favorite snacks come from Epcot because you have the World Showcase. So you have different dining options around the world that you can find at a world-renowned theme park. So one of my personal favorites is the maple popcorn over in the Canadian Pavilion. If you haven't had that, check it out. It's around $7. I think it's some of the best value some of the best tasting snacks you can get on property. You can also find different things like popcorn carts, and one of my personal favorites is the Wookiee cookie over at Backlot Express in Hollywood Studios. So the Wookiee cookie is an oatmeal cream pie that is themed to Star Wars. So you'll find Chewbacca's bandolier made of chocolate on top, and it is one of the best snacks I've ever had. And there's also over at Hollywood Studios the carrot cake whoopie pie, which is one of my personal favorites as well, over at the Starbucks, also known as Trolley Cart Cafe. So Disney World is worth it for the snacks, I would say, especially if you're snacking through Walt Disney World. So there you have it. In today's video, I went over park tickets, hotels, and dining, and if it's worth your money in 2026. And I'm going to be going back to Walt Disney World. Kind of have to, because I have my money tied up in an annual pass, which I already paid for. But that being said, I do think Walt Disney World is worth your money in 2026. You just have to be smart about it and watch this channel where your money meets the magic, where I don't give you any hype. I try to be as honest as possible because it comes out of my pocket. It's not paid or sponsored for by Disney or Universal or theme parks in general. So I feel like I can be a little bit more brutally honest with things. But that being said, let me know down in the comments if you think that Walt Disney World is going to be worth it in 2026, or is it too expensive? So as always, I'm going to get back to it, edit this video, check out some of my upcoming content where I'm going to talk about, is Universal Orlando going to be worth it with Epic Universe? If you haven't noticed, that's what's been playing in the background today. And as always, I hope your money meets the magic, and I'm going to see you in the next video. Check out more content from DizWiz Dollars. Make sure you follow me over on Instagram, hit like and subscribe on YouTube, and I'm going to get back to it, and I hope you have a magical day.